each and every moment. We are composing the stories of our lives, you know, something other than mommy and daddy's baggage. Ah, bless you, dear. You know, I'd wink at you, but I never learned how. So I just thought you should know. She winks at me. I intend to explore a smidgen of infidelity. I'm so sorry. That was...
Stop me!
Friends, the story begins with a professor named Richard, who is sitting in front of his doctor looking extremely worried and broken. And the doctor tells Richard that he has lung cancer and it has already reached the last stage, which means Richard now has only 6 months left to live. However, the doctor also says that if he goes through a painful treatment, he might be able to survive for 1 to 1.5 more years, but Richard refuses to go through this painful treatment because he doesn't want to spend his remaining time suffering. And after hearing this devastating news, Richard becomes deeply depressed and emotionally distant, and he decides that he will share this bad news with his daughter Olivia and his wife Veronica. Later that night, when the family sits together for dinner, Richard is just about to tell them about his cancer, but before he can say anything, his daughter Olivia suddenly says that she is a lesbian and that she is in a relationship with another girl. Veronica thinks Olivia is joking and starts laughing, and seeing this reaction makes Olivia very angry and hurt. So she storms off from the table. And right after that, Veronica confesses something shocking to Richard. She tells him that she is having an affair, and the man she is involved with is none other than Richard's own boss, Henry. And hearing this completely shatters Richard. He becomes angry and heartbroken, but Veronica leaves him there alone. And after this moment, Richard decides that he will not tell anyone else about his illness. The next day, Richard removes the students from his class who are only there to get good grades, and now only a few students remain in the classroom, the ones who are genuinely interested. Then Richard asks them to read a book and write about a specific topic, and after that, he tells them they will have to teach that same topic to the rest of the class. Richard explains that if they learn a meaningful lesson from that topic and are able to explain it clearly to others, they will receive an A grade. After saying this, Richard starts to leave, but before walking out, he tells them that if anyone uses drugs or knows someone who supplies drugs, they should contact him. Hearing this, the entire class is left shocked and confused. After this, Richard meets Peter, who is the chairman of the college and also his close friend. Here, Richard talks about taking retirement, but Peter responds by saying that no one gets retirement this early and asks why he wants it. At first, Richard makes an excuse that he wants to write a book, but then he finally reveals the truth about his illness. And hearing this, Peter becomes deeply emotional. Then we see Veronica and Henry together, where Henry says that he wants to work at the same college where Richard works. When Richard returns home, he tells Veronica that now she can do whatever she wants because it does not matter to him anymore, but from now on, both of them will live their lives on their own terms and with whoever they want, and they will keep it hidden from Olivia so that their relationship does not negatively affect their daughter. Veronica agrees to this, and after that, both of them sit together, have drinks, and get heavily drunk. And at that moment, Olivia suddenly arrives home with her girlfriend. But when she sees her parents in that drunken state, she gets angry and leaves the house immediately. The next day in class, Richard takes a cigarette from a girl, but since it is his first time, he does not like the smell. After this, Richard asks each student to introduce themselves one by one and tells them to give him a reason why he should know them. Then a girl named Claire says that maybe because her uncle Henry is the president of this college, meaning Henry, who had a relationship with Veronica, was Claire's uncle, and both Richard and Claire disliked Henry. Richard takes all the students out together, where he gives them advice to live their lives freely before death, encouraging them to experience everything without fear. And at that moment, a waitress comes there, and Richard starts talking to her and pulls her into his conversation. Then he takes her into the bathroom and becomes intimate with her. And while leaving, he tells the students to give her a good tip, and all the students already understand what Richard had just done. After this, Richard tells a student named Rose to prepare an explanation for the next week, and later Richard also tells Peter about what happened with the waitress in the bathroom. That night when Richard is having dinner with his daughter Olivia, he asks her about her relationship, and while they are talking, Veronica suddenly arrives, and Olivia immediately goes silent because she was still angry with her. Seeing this, Richard tells Veronica to apologize to Olivia, and Veronica does exactly that. After this, we see Rose presenting her topic explanation, where she talks about what she has learned, and everyone listens to her carefully except Richard. But in the end, while giving feedback, Richard tells her that her personality is changing, and he gives her an A grade. After that, Richard shares his opinion about a sculpture made by Veronica, and hearing this, a student says that his wife made it, but Richard replies that no matter who made it, he still has the right to give his opinion. Later, when Richard is in his cabin, a student named Daniel comes to meet him, and he brings a cake that contains drugs. Then Daniel asks Richard if he can ask him a personal question, Richard agrees, and Daniel asks if he has ever been intimate with a man. Richard says no. And hearing this, Daniel says that he wants to be intimate with him because he is gay. Richard agrees to this because he also wants to experience something new, and he becomes very impressed with Daniel because Daniel was able to express his true feelings to him without any fear. After this, people gather together to honor the sculpture made by Veronica, and here Henry explains what the sculpture represents and why it was created, but no one is really able to understand it. Then Olivia comes to Richard and tells him that her mom is not giving her permission to go to state school, and Richard gives Olivia permission. But at that moment, Veronica arrives and tells both of them that she is going to dinner with Henry tonight. Hearing this, both Richard and Olivia feel a little hurt, but Veronica informs them and then leaves. When Olivia and Richard are sitting together, Olivia asks him why he is still with her mom, even though she is cheating on him. Richard replies that as people grow older, they start blaming others for their own mistakes, and over time relationships begin to fall apart. Olivia then discusses her love relationship with Richard, and later that night, Richard tells Veronica everything. The next day, another student presents her story explanation, but Richard does not like it much and gives her a D grade. Then Richard asks the rest of the students if they understood anything, and they all respond, yes. And at that moment, Daniel asks Richard for permission to smoke. Richard allows Daniel to smoke and also starts drinking himself, and Peter and Henry see all of this, and they do not like Richard's behavior at all. Peter takes Richard to a support group where there are people just like him who are struggling with their lives, and there everyone talks about their own experiences. But Richard does not say anything about himself and starts to leave. Before leaving, Richard tells everyone that he wishes them good luck for their coming death, and hearing this, everyone is left shocked. After this, Peter comes to a bar with Richard. Peter and Richard have a very strong friendship, so Peter feels deeply sad for him, and at that moment, Henry's niece Claire arrives there, who is also Richard's student. Peter drinks too much and loses control, so Claire and Richard put him into a taxi and send him home, and Richard stays at the bar for some more time. And during their conversation, Richard tells Claire about his illness, and hearing this, Claire becomes very emotional. Claire asks Richard to dance, and Richard agrees to dance with her, and while they are dancing together, Richard suddenly collapses to the ground and loses consciousness, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital. And Peter comes to meet Richard. He tells him to control his drinking because his health is getting worse. After some time, Richard is discharged from the hospital, and when he returns home, Veronica asks him where he was, but Richard does not tell her that he was in the hospital and leaves without saying anything. After this, we see Richard in his cabin, and Henry calls him to his office because some allegations have been made against Richard.
Richard, Henry would like to have a word with you.
Richard does not want to meet Henry, but because Henry holds a senior position, he has no choice but to go. Here, Henry asks Richard several questions, and Richard becomes angry and speaks harshly to him. And he also reveals that he knows Henry is in a relationship with his wife, and he even criticizes the meaningless sculpture that was created. Richard threatens Henry so that he will get angry and force him into retirement. After this, Richard goes to Peter's house with his wife Veronica and his daughter Olivia because it is Peter's wife's birthday, and a party has been organized, and everyone there is happy and enjoying themselves. But during dinner, Richard suddenly starts coughing and coughs up blood, and Olivia notices this, but she does not say anything. Later, when they are alone, Peter tells Richard that he is going to receive retirement. The next day, Claire gives her explanation, which is about love, and this explanation is liked by all the students as well as Richard, and he gives Claire an A grade. Richard motivates all the students in the class and advises them to enjoy the one life they have and to do something creative because this was his last class. Later, when Richard is in his office, his health suddenly becomes very bad, and Peter arrives there and supports him and tries to take him to the hospital, but instead of going to the hospital, Richard goes to a church, and there he tells Peter that this is his last month. Hearing this, Peter starts crying.
Listen, I'd really prefer if you didn't cry.
And both of them hug each other. At night, Richard and Veronica go to the college farewell party, where Richard greets Henry's wife by kissing her hello. Although neither Henry nor his wife likes this, they remain silent. Then Henry deliberately makes Veronica sit away from Richard and gives a speech where he announces that he has now become the chancellor of the college. Richard does not like this at all, and he stands up and starts exposing Henry, saying how Henry looks at other men's wives with bad intentions, and he even reveals that Henry has 3 testicles, which Veronica had told him, and along with this, Richard also reveals his cancer. Seeing his secrets being exposed, Henry tries to stop Richard and silence him, but Richard does not stay quiet because he has already received his retirement from the college. Now Henry is no longer his senior, so Richard openly insults him with without holding back, and when he reveals his illness, everyone becomes very emotional. Richard says that he was neither able to save his life nor live it properly, but every person has the right to live their life in their own way, and they should take full advantage of the one chance they get. Peter stood by Richard in every situation, so Richard thanks him. After dinner, Richard also apologizes to Veronica because he hid his illness from her. Veronica becomes very emotional, and Richard says goodbye to her and leaves. When Richard is at home, Olivia comes to him in tears and tells him that her girlfriend has been unfaithful to her. Richard calmly comforts her and explains that in such a big world, she will eventually find someone who is truly loyal and right for her. After this emotional moment, Richard shares the truth about his serious illness with Olivia, which makes her even more emotional, and she starts crying heavily. Richard gently reassures her and tells her that she has always been a wonderful daughter. Then he quietly says goodbye and leaves the house with his dog, as he does not want his family to witness his final suffering. In the final moment, Richard drives his car into the river that leads to the ocean, suggesting that he chooses to end his life. With this tragic and emotional decision, the story comes to an end.